corporation, for a nonprofit. It can be a very rewarding profession and a growing profession. There are a lot of opportunities on the entry level right now. So it's something that you may want to consider. I would not consider going into the newspaper business. A lot of people in the newspaper business are thinking about how they're going to get into the public relations business. And a lot of people make that transition because they have expertise with the media. But I will tell you, people who study and understand the profession of public relations, understand how to build relationships, how to communicate effectively, it will go very far within their organizations. I prepared a little PowerPoint. I'm going to go through it. And then I thought we'd do a Q&A, talk a little bit about what your thoughts are with your careers, things that you may be doing here in class, things that you may have questions about. There's a lot of aspirations, expectations, there's a lot of fallacies about public relations. But we'll try to cover all that this evening. How many people in here are thinking about public relations as a career? Maybe. Not a problem. I went to journalism school. I didn't know I was going to be in public relations until about a month before I graduated, when I found out how much the newspaper business paid. And I had a baby and a wife who probably weren't going to be able to live in a style that they were accustomed to, which was 3 meals a day and a mortgage. So, but it is absolutely a career that you may want to consider and learn more about. Let's go through the PowerPoint. And I've put together a PowerPoint called 12 Things a Lifelong Love with Leadership. And I'm not sure if one of these advanced, just use the mouse?
Yes.
All right, sounds good. I use the term leadership because public relations is always on the spear point in an organization. You're on the tip. You're where the action is. And if you like that kind of a lifestyle and a career, that is something that a leader in public relations is always going to be involved with. First thing, learn to write well. You need to have strong written skills. Why? Because every single thing you do, regardless of the technology, requires you to be able to take thoughts and share them. And you're going to do one of two things. You're going to educate and inform, or you're going to influence and persuade. One or the other. Everything that comes from your desk will either be educational or it's going to be persuasive. You're going to try to get someone to see your point of view, understand your product, build your service, vote for your candidate, give money to your nonprofit, or you're going to inform them about something scientific, something political. You will be dealing with a lot of facts. How many of you know what an infographic is? You've seen them on social media. If you haven't seen an infographic, Google it. It is the hot new trend in communicating factual information. And it's nothing more than a cartoon that takes one or two facts and visually represents the facts so that people can quickly understand them. 35 years ago, there was no such thing in the profession. Now it's the hottest thing going. I now deal with an awful lot of infographics because you need to communicate fast, simple, and you got to deliver it typically using social media or email. You got to learn how to write. I'm going to tell you whether you're in PR or not. If you have an ambition to grow in a career, I see an awful lot of people. Most people cannot write. Most people cannot construct 3 paragraphs in an email. Most people cannot write an effective subject line on an email that gets me to want to read the entire email. And I'm talking about an email, not a report, not a white paper, not an editorial, not a press release. I'm talking about an email. You probably spend a great deal of time on Facebook, on Twitter, maybe Google+. Great. I'm not saying that's not excellent. I spend unimaginable amount of time on Facebook every day, 2 to 3 hours. I spend an hour on Twitter every day. I spend about an hour on Google Plus every 2 days. Anybody know what clout is on the internet? K-L-O-U-T.
I'm at 51. Sorry.
That's all right, but that's exactly what you want to do. Clout is a social media measure of how effective you are with your Twitter, with your Facebook, with your Google Plus, with your Pinterest. And it counts the number of people you influence. You still have to write well. And you have to be able to understand what other people write. Guys, if you're getting a degree, make sure that you have better than average writing skills. You will go far in the next 10 to 20 years, no matter where you work. Guaranteed. I guarantee it. You need to be able to speak confidently, impromptu, and do so convincingly. If you give an impromptu speech, it's spontaneous. If you can do that, you can give a speech from a script. You can give a speech at a forum or a panel. These first 2 items, write well, speak well, will virtually guarantee your career. And the reason I'm telling you this is in the last 35 years, I've watched executives and workers go downhill in their ability to write and speak in front of the public. If you can do that, I don't care if you're going to be a nurse, I don't care if you're going to be a salesperson, I don't care if you're going to be an accountant. You will climb the corporate ladder, you will climb the nonprofit ladder. If you're going to be an independent entrepreneur, maybe you're moving your own idea, starting your own business, you're going to communicate extremely well to the people who are either going to invest in your product and service or buy your product and service. The first 2 items on this PowerPoint is the most important thing I could tell you. And it's what they told you pretty much in the first grade. It's shocking. But I will tell you, every person I've ever seen who's made it to the highest ranks were superb writers, and they could get up and give a speech or sell a product or talk to a group just like that. These are skills. You learn them, you practice them, you develop them. I couldn't do this 40 years ago. I couldn't do what you're looking at right now 40 years ago. I had 2 people help me, teach me, train me. They did it for free. And you can do it too. Toastmasters is one. There may be a slight fee for Toastmasters. A lot of executives join Toastmasters throughout their entire career and give practice speeches all the time. You will be so comfortable doing this, people will say, how did you learn that? I can't do it. And you'll say, well, I learned it at Toastmasters. I learned it through my church. I learned it through my school. Being able to speak well in front of a group is money in the bank. It's money in the bank. Okay, let's have some bigger fun. I don't know how you teach someone to listen. Oh, I guess I do. You're doing it right now. You've got to get their attention, and you've got to hold their attention. That means that you, the receiver, have got to be attentive. You've got to turn your ears on. I'm a professional executive coach as well as a public relations professional. And Gesundheit. Gesundheit.
He's allergic to listening.
You okay? All right. You have to train yourself to engage your ears and your mind. And in coaching, we teach and work with people to live in the moment. Right now. There is no past. There is no future. You take all five senses and you apply them to what's in front of you. That's mastering the art of listening. And you don't analyze while you're listening, you absorb. Use all five of your senses if you can. The bottom line is, this moment is the only moment you're ever going to live. It's the only moment you're ever going to learn. Everything else is either analysis or it's future. And future may never be. You train yourself to learn by training yourself to listen. And every public relations professional that I respect goes into a meeting, goes into a presentation, and they hear everything that's going on. Information is invaluable. We live in the information age, big data, databases. But talking to people in a small group, socializing, keeping close, you hear things, and in public relations, information is knowledge, knowledge is gold. Writing, speaking, listening. It's building relationships. People will pay you extremely well if you can master the art of building those relationships. People like to associate with those who can build bridges, and PR people who are really good at build bridges. Gifted writers have gifted ears. Networking. There isn't a person in PR or marketing who's been successful who doesn't make new customers, prospects, friends, colleagues, all of these things every day. Because those people you don't know are eventually going to be a customer or a client or a voter or a member of your church or a member of your Rotary. They're going to be somebody you're going to ask to do something, buy a product, vote for you, join your club. And you're going to have a lifetime of relationships yourself. And they are gold. Because when you go in public relations and you apply for a job, people are going to ask you, who do you know? What's your network? I came to Tampa Bay 8 years ago. I knew no one in the business community. I got hired by United Way to be their vice president of communications. Kind of shocking. You would think in this area you would have hired someone who had existing contacts in Hillsborough and Pinellas County. And I had to overcome that to get the job. The reality was, for certain organizational and political reasons, they wanted someone neutral. There had been a recent merger between Hillsborough and Pinellas. The organization became United Way Tampa Bay. It had been United Way Hillsborough County and United Way Pinellas. Every time they interviewed somebody who was from Pinellas, we're going to do it the Pinellas way. Every time they interviewed somebody from Tampa, we're going to do it the Hillsborough way. The headhunter said, you want to create an organization that's going to be harmonious and consolidated. You're going to have to get somebody who isn't tainted with local politics and local relationships. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. Made the interview. They said, we like what you do. You've got to get to know everybody in town in a very short amount of time. Now, I knew how to do that. And that's, you don't stay at your desk. You're out on the move. You're going to Rotary. You're going to church meetings. You're going to Chambers of Commerce. I joined Leadership Tampa, which is a very, it's a very tight-knit group of about 60 people that have a class every year. And they're young people for the most part. I was the oldest one in the class. but they're people who are in law, politics, religion, corporate, a lot of different organizations, and they're working to learn about what happens to foster new leaders for tomorrow. You meet a tremendous amount of people. And I networked, and I networked, and I networked. And believe it or not, most of it wasn't social media. There's an old term that some of you may or may not know what a Rolodex is. A Rolodex is a little thing that rolls and has little tiny cards in it. And you used to write down the names and addresses of everybody you know, and you put it in the Rolodex in alphabetical order. They used to ask the question, how big's your Rolodex? And I said, you ever see the Rolodex that have 2 of the rotaries in it? Mm-hmm, that's right. Now it's all your Outlook. How big's your Outlook? How many people do you know on LinkedIn? Those things, money in the bank. Doesn't matter what you do in the future, these are critical skills in public relations. All right, now we're going to talk a little bit more specifically. Whether you go into communications or not, you may be in decision-making modes where you have to understand how a community communicates. It used to be we had 2 primary channels. You either were an advertiser in marketing, direct mail, billboards, newspaper ads, TV and radio, or you were using media relations work, press releases, phone calls to the media, free publicity. Don't ever use the word free advertising. There is no such thing as free advertising. It kind of shows that you don't know your stuff. Advertising, by its very nature, is the exchange of money to put an ad in a newspaper, TV, or radio. Publicity is when they write about you, and they don't charge you for that. It's getting on a radio talk show. It's being on the Today Show. It's doing things that you proactively make happen. Those producers, quite honestly, pretty lazy people. If the phone rings and you've got a great story idea, or if you know a celebrity, or if you've written a top book, you're probably going to have an opportunity. May not get it, but you're going to have an inside track. That's publicity. It's much bigger now. There are 4 strategic communications environments. And I'm getting really glad that I'm going to be retired soon, because if there's any more of them pop up, I don't know what I'm going to do. You guys are going to be facing a world where technology is transforming the way we communicate. It already has, but we don't even know where it's going. So if you're in sales, you're in production, you're in administration, you're in operations, you may need to understand where information is coming from and going to. And it's coming from 4 areas. I'm going to zoom in on this. Here's paid media right here. As I said,